right, hello, and welcome to another episode of I Guess I'll Do It with Pat House, where I talk to comedians about what got them into stand-up and that very first time they tried it. And their I Guess I'll Do It moment where they, fucking decided to try it. That's all. Comedy podcast. Today, I have a buddy I've known for 17 years. We go way back to the Laugh House days. Today, I have Mike Vecchione. What's up, dude?
Thank you for having me, Pat. And I have to say that I guess I'll do it. I thought that was people's response to the being asked to do the podcast.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, it's a two-way street.
Double meaning?
Yeah, it's a double entendre. So how you been, man? What's going on?
I'm doing good, man. I just figured out how to work a Zoom light and have a background that's not humiliating. And it took me the pandemic to do it. But now that we're out of the pandemic, I figured it out. So now I have a nice clear background and a ring light. So
nice. Well, you look fantastic.
I'm not bragging, but things are going well that way, production-wise.
So I think you're the first New York comic I've talked to in a long time. What's comedy like in New York now?
Why do you hate us? What have you got against us?
A lot of things,
actually. Go
actually.
to the Midwest or the West Coast or something, and you got beef with us?
What's comedy like in New York right now?
Well, I like to start, Pat, I don't know. We're trying to get podcast numbers up, so I find confrontation works well.
Okay. That's good. All right, let's make this a very hostile.
Sometimes I'm going to come at you with answers, and, confrontation sells.
Make this a very hostile interview.
Hostile. I like it. It's in New York. It's coming back. I guess like every other city, it's just opening up. It's gradual, but it's happening, and it feels good. It really does. It actually feels good. So
awesome.
The restrictions are being lifted slowly. I think at the end of this month, I'm predicting my call is I'm putting all my money on it'll be completely open.
Nice. Very cool. Crowds are coming out. People want to come out.
Yeah, people are coming out. Crowds are out. People are vaccinated. So I think it's going to be all good. I think it's going to be a huge, I think the clubs I've already seen them. They're already filling up. But
awesome.
Once every restriction gets dropped, they're going to be packed.
Awesome, dude. You and I go way back, man. I wanted to tell this story first because I saw you at the Laugh House and we did Rascals together a couple times. Yes. Were you the last comic to headline Rascals in Cherry Hill? Was that the last weekend?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Because it was definitely towards the very end because you did something, and I've mentioned this story on the podcast before. I think I hosted 4 shows, and I think I got like $20 or something crazy. The club had no money. The club was closing, so I hosted, and then you asked if the club paid me, and I said yeah. And you asked how much, and I was like, don't worry about it. Just don't worry about it. I just wanted to do the shows with you and do the show. And then you gave me $40. And I never forgot that, man, because I was brand new to comedy. I was brand new to hosting, but you and I were like talking shop and shooting the shit. And then you paid me. Like you just threw me like a tip, I guess you could say. And I never forgot that. That meant that meant a lot, dude.
That's really cool. Yeah, we don't think about these things like, when we're, to be kind to each other, you know what I mean? We don't, sometimes we just do things, we don't think about them, but like, that's the way it should be, man. We need to take care of each other because, this business, I mean, you should do it anyway, just because it's the right thing to do to be kind to another human being. But also business wise, it's smart because it's like, you don't ever know where people are going to end up. You're hosting for me one day, you have your own show the next day. Like, it's like,
yeah,
you don't know where people are going to end up. So, but intrinsically, you should be doing it just because you're a good person. But even if you're from a shrewd business sense, it makes sense to do it just because you don't know where the chips are going to fall.
But when you're brand new and like somebody just does a kind gesture like that, you never forget it. So I always try to keep that kind of stuff in mind. You and I'm trying to think. Last time I saw you, I think we were doing Cleveland together.
Cleveland Hilarities.
Yeah. It was a Sunday show. Oh, yeah. I love that club a lot. You and I met at the Laugh House. I remember that because not too many white guys flying around the Laugh House when I started. And then I saw you and Joe DeRosa murder. Both of you killed. And I was like, who the fuck are these guys?
Yeah, we were on our way out. Like Joe was 8 months before me, 8 or 9 months to New York living with Big J. And we were both on our way out. But yeah, we were we had been there for years though. I know I'd been there for like 3.5 before I left. So, yeah, that's pretty cool because you were just coming in and we were just, I mean, Joe had already left. I think I was leaving.
Yeah. Everybody was gone.
Yeah. But it made that room was really a good room in its heyday. Wednesdays were really good, and the Thursdays it's a different crowd, but it was also very good. And that was the only thing going on at the club. I know the Northeast had the comedy cabaret, and I never really went up there, but I think those guys were just performing for themselves. Like, I don't know how much of a crowd they got in, like, you know, and but the Laugh House would get crowds, like good crowds, and they were sometimes tough, very tough, but it made you better.
Man, you know? I took a lot of beatings in that room, but I also learned a lot.
Yeah.
Was that the place where you did your first set?
No, I took a comedy class like in 96 with Paul Solari.
Paul Solari.
Yeah, so I took a comedy class and then I just never did it. Like I just did it once and then never did it again. You know what I mean? Like I was like, I don't have the wherewithal to go out and pursue this. I just did one class and I was like, oh, this is cool. This was a fun experience. And then that was it. But then I went through a huge life change in 2000 and that's when I started going to the Laugh House. I started just going every week to the Laugh House. And that's really my start date of comedy, I would say.
Okay.
October of 2000, because that's when I started doing open mics once a week.
Okay, I was October 2004.
Okay.
So I was a little bit behind you, but I hit the ground running. I did an open mic there Wednesday. First set went very well, and then now I'm here. I have not stopped since that first time.
That's great. No, I started in 2000 and just going every week, and I would fail miserably a lot of times, but I was like, nah, this feels right. You know, there's something feels right about this. Like, failure isn't the end of the world. I'll pick it up and figure out what I did wrong and come back and try next week. You know, I just looked at it that way. So that makes things easier. You know, I mean, it still hurts to bomb, but
oh God, yeah,
it really hurts. But if you just keep it in perspective and go, oh, there's always next week. I can come back and figure it out. You know, or maybe I can grow from this.
Who else was around then? Like, who was part of your crew? Were Joe DeRosa, Metzger, and Jay around, or were they already gone?
No, Jay and Metzger, I met after they were already in New York.
Okay.
Like I didn't meet them until after they were in New York. So I met Jay because he was coming back to feature on the weekends. So that's how I initially met Jay. But I didn't know those guys really. I mean, I had met them before I moved, but I didn't really get to know them until I moved. So, but they were already Jay, Kurt, Kevin Hart. Those guys were already. I mean, Kevin Hart, I think, was already in LA by the time I moved to New York. So,
okay.
But Jay and Kurt were already up here, so they weren't really part of the Laugh House scene. It was me and Joe, and then Joe left, and then it was just me and I forget who. Matt Bellis. Do you know Matt Bellis?
I know that name.
He's Joe Matarese's cousin. He was going a lot, and I'm trying to think of the other guys. Sean Clay. Do you remember Sean?
Oh, dude, Sean Clay is so funny. Yep,
I loved him. Sean Clay was really funny. Derek Gaines.
Yeah.
Derek started like after, maybe around the time you started.
He's about a year ahead of me. I think he and I actually talked about that. He started like pretty much exactly 1 year ahead of me, but we were essentially like in the same class. We came up together. We were at the Laugh House every single Wednesday and Thursday.
Right. I mean, it was we had a solid group. Malcolm, remember Malcolm? Yeah. And Chure, like I have to say, when I was there, ran the Thursdays, and I've told him this too. I haven't seen him in a long time.
I'm going to see him tonight.
He was very, very like such a good like fair guy. Like if you did good on Wednesday, he would just like bring you. He's like, do Thursday. I'll schedule you for a Thursday. He was like, he didn't play that thing where it's like he just hooked his friends up, which would have been very easy to do. And he probably would have made a lot of gains that way in like that local. I mean, he was already on top of that scene, so I don't know how many gains he could have made, but he could have, done favors for guys and hooked people up, but he didn't do it that way. He really did it on if I see you in here and you're working and you're improving, then I'll put you up on Thursdays. And I thought that was just a great way to be. So,
Yeah, he's such a good dude, man. I'm going to see him tonight. And I had him on in an episode, and it was one of the best ones just because we had such a great connection. But he was the first person to ask me to host his birthday weekend. He would headline the Laugh House every June on his birthday week or weekend. And I'll never forget when he asked me, he's like, "You want to host for me all weekend?" And it meant the world to me because I respected him so much. Yeah. And then he was showing me the love and, putting money in my pocket, getting me shows. And then he had me host again the following year. Like, again, that shit you don't forget.
Yeah, you don't forget it. And because he probably saw you working hard in the clubs, and it didn't matter that you weren't, boys or whatever. He just saw you working. He saw you growing. And, that's the way it should be. At the end, I had a Laugh House date right before it closed. And I was kind of hoping that he bought the club or took it over or something. I was kind of hoping that like he would do that, but I wasn't sure, I hadn't seen him in a while, so I wasn't sure, but I was like, that would be great if he took it over, because then he knows, like, he would do the right thing with the club, I believe.
Oh, absolutely. What year was that?
Wanted to do with his, he's a talented guy. He could do whatever he wanted. But if he wanted to do that, I think he would run that club, and it would be wildly successful just because he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, and he would stack it with good people. What year did Laugh House close? I don't even remember what year it was.
7 or 8?
Yeah, maybe around there. Because I was definitely a regular there for a couple years, so I built up a rapport with them. But I took a lot of beatings in that. Is that where you performed the most? Like,
I was religious about it. I would go there on Wednesdays, and if I got shows on Thursdays, and then they hosted me, and then they featured me a little bit, and I was grateful for that. And then, they worked me. And then once I started featuring and was like the top of the doing very well in the open mic and on the Thursdays, I was doing very well. So it was like, the advice that I got was don't stay there. Just don't, not just there, but don't stay in your hometown too long. Like move, you got to move, like move to New York, get your once you start featuring at the clubs and you're at the top of your, like the open mic, lineup, just get out, and start. It's time to move to another environment, a bigger environment, and develop somewhere else. Develop in New York or else, basically was the advice. Yeah.
That's what I was always told. And I did the New York scene in 2011, but didn't really, I didn't do it well. I came back to Philly a lot for paid work and real shows. Like, cause it was such a weird dichotomy because I would be featuring at Helium's multiple clubs, like, on the weekends, then come back to like an open mic and not even get on surrounded by people who aren't even working comics. It was very, I don't know. I didn't have a good year up there
in New York.
Yeah. It was really
tough. It's very tough at first because it's just like no one knows you. So that's why the advice is don't wait till you're 10 years in, because that's a harder hit to take. Wait till I was like 3.5 years in.
Okay.
Like that. And then you're, but you don't want to be a headlining guy and then come to New York because it's like no one, at that time, like technology and everything has changed, but at that time, no one knew you and no one cared. And it's like, you would have to start at the bottom again, essentially. So if you're 3 years in, starting at the bottom isn't as bad as if you're 10 years in.
Yeah.
And you're an actual headliner,
And now at 17 years in, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, well, the landscape has changed too. So it's like a lot of, podcasting and, sites, digital, YouTube, all this stuff changed everything. So you can emerge another way. But at that time, there was no other way to emerge except through the clubs and through the scene.
So you moved up after 3.5 years here, you said?
3.5. Yeah.
Okay.
My life circumstances kind of like all coincided with me to make a move. I wasn't happy with my job. I was single. I was living by myself. It's like, if I'm, I remember Joe DeRosa actually came back and we were talking. He's like, what are you doing? We had just like done the open mic. I killed. He's like, what are you doing still here? What are you doing? Move, dude, move. And I was like going through the logistics. I don't know if I could find an apartment up there. I don't know where to go. He's like, that stuff will all work itself out. Make the decision to move, and then once you do that, the rest of it is all logistics. And it's true. He was really right on that. He was really right.
How was that adjustment? Were you getting on stage all the time? Was it like shitty shows, or were you trying to wheeze your way into the clubs? How did you tackle?
First of all, I was trying to get in the clubs. But it's very hard. It was very hard to get in the clubs at the time. And the Boston Comedy Club was still going on. It was in the last years of the Boston Comedy Club. And what was good about the Boston Comedy Club is that the comics would run the shows during the week. Mm-hmm. They were pro shows on the weekends by the booker. But during the week, the comics would run the show. So they would put on who they wanted to put on. So I started hanging out there, and then I would just do any room I could do. I would do mics, I would do music mics, but there wasn't a lot of these rooms around outside of the clubs. That wasn't a thing back then. It was like the Village Lantern was going.
I remember that.
Places like that, but there's a massive amount of rooms out there now. You don't even need to work the clubs now. You could just emerge from these rooms. There's so many of them, but at the time there wasn't that many rooms. So you had to do what you could at the open mics, music mics or whatever, and then just hang out at the clubs until you could get on. So that's what I did. And I hung out at the Boston Comedy Club, and you meet a lot of people that way, and you see, I had never been in the New York scene. So you sit back on the weekends and you go and you watch these guys, you watch how they perform and how they are. And that's like, oh, that's where I want to be. That was the goal back then.
That was my favorite part about being up there was the hanging out at the club. I would hang at the Cellar almost every single night. Right. Like I would hang at a shitty bar show or two, or try to do a mic and go hang at the Cellar. And that was always my favorite part.
That's what I would do too. I would do a mic or a lower level room to work out new material. Then I would try to get on at the clubs. And if I got on, great. That's an extra spot. And if I didn't, it was whatever. It was fine. And then I would go to the Cellar and I would hang out, because the Cellar was the ultimate goal at the time. It's like, this is where all the killers are. This is where all the best people are. And
my God. Yeah. Just sitting in that room was just me watching, like, just the lineups are just insane. I used to look at the lineups every single day, and then I would hang out there. It's just incredible to just see so many of your heroes just in one spot, and then watch them go up one after one and murder,
and do it differently with different styles. The way they did is just like it was an education, man. It really was.
Oh man. Well, I mean, to this day, I still think Attell is the best education. There were so many nights where I would see him do, like 3 nights in a row, just do a different 20, just throw shit to the wind. And it was incredible, because I'm still a chicken like that. Like, I'm not going to throw out a new 20 every single night. And he was just throwing ideas to the breeze.
Yeah, his new 20 is like I always say this, his throwaway stuff is better than the best stuff any of us have. Mm-hmm. It's pretty crazy.
He was good to you, right? Didn't he give you
very good to me? Yeah. I mean, very good to me. To this day, he's like very good to me, and it's brought me into several projects that he's worked on. And, I talked to him, run jokes. Like, he's just a great person.
Yeah, he's a
great person. And I love, like, hanging out with him. You know what I mean? I really forget that he's a master at this craft and all that. But just makes me laugh. I mean, just to hang out with him is really, really great.
Yeah, I haven't seen him in a while, but I've worked with him a million times, and it's always just the little shit, the little asides he says in the green room are fucking incredible zingers, and they're like just for you, not for anybody else.
He's fantastic, man. He's the guy. He is really the guy here, and everybody knows it. Everybody comes down in the room and watches him, and we all know it, man.
Oh, dude, I gotta get him on.
Oh yeah.
I don't even know if he would, but I could certainly try.
Yeah.
You and I were on the same New Faces. You've been to Montreal a couple times, right?
Yes.
You and I were on the same New Faces audition at the comic strip. I'm trying to forget what year that was as well, but it was me, you, Adrian Appalucci, Josh Gondelman, Colin Jost. It was a fucking crazy lineup.
Wow. I just remember must have been 2010 because that's
Okay.
when I New Faces, 2010. But I was in the clubs. I had been doing comedy for 10 years by the time I did New Faces. So New Faces I thought was supposed to be like a year 2 or 3 years in. At least that's what I thought at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But it took me 10 years. It took me 3 tries to get it. And after that comic strip set, because I was already working the clubs at that point, you know. And after that comic strip set, I was like, okay, if I don't get it now, then I probably won't get it. But that's, you know, at least I did a good representation of myself. So if they say no, then it's got nothing to do with me, really. It's got to do with maybe, you know, other factors. You know, they're looking for a certain type. They're looking for this, looking for that. So I understood it. But after that set, I was like, okay, this is it. This is good. And then I ended up getting it. So did you get it then?
I did not. I was like, I'm not going to say the king of callbacks, but like I've auditioned for them so many times, got the callback, never got it. Then that happened like 3 or 4 years in a row, and then I just stopped.
Right.
You know, it got...
No, I understand.
Yeah. I mean, Jeff Singer's a great dude. I don't have any beef with him, but I was just tired of getting, like, I don't know, like 3 or 4 years of callbacks in a row and still not getting it. Like, what else do you want? You know?
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, it's not a referendum on your like we take it so personal, but it really is not a referendum on your talents. Like they're looking for different types, they're looking for different things. They're not necessarily looking for the strongest. I always like thought it was like, oh, they're looking for the strongest jokes. It's like that's not necessarily, and clearly when I went up there and saw what it was, that's not what they were looking for. They were looking for characters and different types and
originality, originality,
like different kind of things that we're straight purists.
Yes.
So
yes.
We think they're looking for the best stand-up comedy set, and it's like that's not necessarily true. They're looking for different things.
So take me back to before you started. When did you decide that you were going to try comedy? Were you a stand-up fan growing up, or?
Yeah, I really liked it. I was working at Glen Mills in Philadelphia area, and I would watch Comedy Central have Lounge Lizards, and they would comedy remix. They would do the half hours, like the whole, like I would work at night. I would work the 4 to 12 shift. So I'd wake up, and my girlfriend at the time went to law school. So she would leave it would just be me during the day before work. And I would watch all of those shows, like the half hour, Premium Blend.
Love them.
I would watch Lounge Lizards, and I would watch Comedy Remix. Comedy Remix was kind of cool because it was like the same version. It was one topic, and then they would do a bunch of different takes on the topic.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like all comics that I would later meet, you know, Todd Barry, Laurie Kilmartin, like they were all on those shows, you know, Nick DiPaolo, those guys were all on those shows then. And so I would, you know, it was pretty cool. If I look back at it now, I'm thinking about it, it's like I saw them all at that point in my life before I was doing stand-up, and now I've met all of them, obviously, in my career.
Yeah, it's bizarre when, I was obsessed with Comedy Central Presents and like Premium Blend, and it's weird that, you know, I have a million friends like you that I would watch them, and like you get to know these people. Like it's still bizarre to me. I'm a huge Brian Regan fan, and I was in Vegas right before COVID last year in Brian Regan's limo, and I'm like, what the fuck? It's still like, I'm still like a starstruck kid in certain situations.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, because these guys have been, I mean, as long as you've been doing it, as long as I've been doing it, these people have been doing it longer and they've even seen more of a change in the business, in the industry, and how it's done, and the ups and the downs of it. It's like they've lived it. So
yeah, and it's just like
there's something to be said for that. I mean, it's great if you get famous off YouTube, but the depth of experiences that these people have had is really something, you know.
I like that, the depths of experience. I like that because it's totally true. They've seen it all. They've done it all. They've gone from open mics to headlining theaters, and there's still I still love having those conversations and hearing about people's whole entire career trajectory with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the trajectory and the ups and the downs of it. Like there's downs of it too, where it's like, I'm sure there was times that they were flying high and doing great and whatever, like turning down deals and stuff, you know what I mean? And then I'm sure there was times where they couldn't find work, or the business took a turn, or their style of comedy was not the in thing. And it's like, it makes you question yourself. It's like, oh, am I worse comics? Like, no, they're looking for something else. You know what I mean? But it's hard to have that kind of perspective in the moment.
Yeah, I love a good horror story too. Like when I talk to these people who have like headline theaters and stuff, like I want to hear about a bad night. Like there's 4,000 people coming to see you, and it's not a good crowd, or they're chatty. Like I love that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went to your taping actually. Your first. Do you have two for Comedy Central or just the one?
I did not Premium Blim. I did Live at Gotham.
Okay.
In 2008, and then I did a half hour.
Yep, I went to your half hour. It was you. I took like the Mega Bus or Bolt Bus up, watched you, and then came right back. Who else was at your taping?
I taped with. I'm
totally blanking.
Who's?
Yeah,
I'm guy in a while, but the guy I taped with, I used to see him occasionally. He was an LA guy, moved to New York. I can't think of his name right now.
Was it Brian Scalero?
No,
that was with Joe DeRosa then.
But I do remember that us two were on the early show, and I remember this is how consumed I was with. It's a Comedy Central half hour. It's my first special that I'm taping. I asked Comedy Central if I could tape as early as possible because I wanted to work the weekend somewhere.
Wow.
Like you know what I mean? It's like, I want to go work the weekend over here. So it's like, instead of, probably the best thing I could have requested, and I don't know if I would have got it or not, was like Saturday night early show or Saturday night late show. It's like, where you want to tape your half hour? I was like, no, can I do a Thursday so that I can work in this room in, where the Midwest? It's like, I just wanted to like work. So in retrospect, that probably wasn't the best move, but the two guys who taped late were Kyle Kinane and Tom Segura.
That's right. Jesus Christ. I can't believe I forgot that because for years, Segura was great to me. He still is. I just haven't seen him much the past year, obviously.
Right.
I can't believe I forgot that because Tom really has been very, very good to me.
Yeah, those guys are great. Man.
He was the first comic to like really bring me on the road. Like I did Helium.
Tom's huge.
Yeah, the last show he's doing bigger theater now. The last show we did was a 4,500 seater in Hollywood, Florida.
Yeah,
we did the big room at the Hard Rock.
I did. This is years ago. I did a show in Calgary. I think it was Canada. And Tom was on the town's picture, was like for the next week or something. I was like, does Tom sell it out? He goes, oh yeah, way in advance. Like he sells it out way in advance. It's like he has to add shows. It's like he's really like a huge draw and has been his podcast is he can't even do a club anymore. Probably it's all theaters now. But back then he would do clubs, but he would just sell them. They would have to add shows, And back then that was before he had a podcast.
Yeah. Wow. Now,
he did Netflix before anybody, I think. Tom was one of the first guys that did Netflix. Yeah.
Do you still enjoy the road?
I do. I would, there's situations you walk into where it's like, if like the hilarities in Cleveland, that was a dream, man.
Yeah. I also love that hotel. Like
hotel was great. My family is close by.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so but that room is fantastic, and the crowds are just great.
And Nick is one of the nicest owners in comedy.
Yeah, it really is.
He is such a great dude.
The food there is through the roof, man. It's just unbelievable. It's steaks every night. My cholesterol was like jumped.
Dude, I was opening for Sebastian in Cleveland at the theater a couple blocks over, and Nick himself walked down with menus and said, I'll keep the kitchen open if you guys want food later. Like he walked down. It was incredible.
Wow.
Brought menus with him. What other clubs are some of your favorites on the road?
That is great. The House of Comedy people are very good to me. The Minnesota, Arizona, Rick Bronson, Tammy are great to me. So I love those rooms. Those are very cool. I'm trying to think what other rooms on the road. But it's like, my point is that situations, the Madison, the club in Madison is very good.
I've heard, I haven't been to that one, but I've heard a lot of comics talk about that one.
Yeah, it's a very good one. So it's good. the common denominator with all the road clubs is, one, they do things the right way. There's a certain way to do things, and all the A clubs do things the right way, and the crowds are mostly comedy fans. You know, in the absence of having your own following,
yeah,
you want comedy fans. So when you know, and we can all feel it when you're on stage. You're like, oh, this is a, you know, good crowd, or it's like, oh, these people are comedy. I can tell these people are comedy fans. Like,
oh yeah, I know.
Because I feel it when I'm on, whether I'm in the city or on the road. I can feel, oh, there's a lot of comedy fans here.
You can tell there's a different air about it.
Right.
So when did you decide? So you're watching Comedy Central. What was the moment where you're like, you know what, I'm going to give this a shot?
I think my girlfriend at the time got me the class.
Okay.
Like, she wanted to do the class. So I did the class, and the class was good. It was good, and it was benefit. You know, I wrote 5 minutes. You write 5 minutes, you practice 5 minutes, and then you do 5 minutes. But at the end of it, I just was kind of like, okay, I guess this was a cool experience. But my life was not set up. My life situation was not set up to pursue it at that time. I was like trying to get a teaching job. I was working with kids. I was like, oh no, this isn't how the trajectory of my life is going to go. I can't actually do this seriously and make money. I'm just going to, you know, I did it that one time. It was cool. And now I'm just going to keep working or whatever. But when I started doing it once a week, my life circumstances had changed to the point where it was like, I'm just going to, I didn't know if there's a future in it, but I'm just going to keep doing it. I'm just going to keep doing it. I set that intention. So I just kept doing it. And even at the beginning, I was like, oh, there's no way I'm good enough to ever do this. But this is helping my public speaking. I'm in education. Maybe this will help. Maybe I can use humor and education and it'll benefit me somehow. It's a good practice, whatever, for whatever reason, for however I'm going to use it in the future. But then after about 3 years or so, I started getting consistent and good. And then I started thinking, why couldn't I do this? My life situation dictated it too. Now, if I would have had a wife and kids, like, I don't know if I would have had the guts to like do that, to make that jump, because I would, you know what I mean? Like, you're not living for yourself anymore.
Yeah.
But my life circumstances dictated that I could have taken more of a risk. So I decided to, once I realized, oh, you're getting better at this and you can cultivate this and you can get better and you can improve. And it's like, oh, my life circumstances, you know, dictate the fact that I can take this risk. So it was a combination of things, I would say. And I would say for all comics, it's your life circumstances versus, you know, the progress you're making, you know, in the field. So
I love finding out, you know, why people get into it and all that stuff, and the early days and shit like that, which we talked about. Do you have a good horror story in your back pocket? Is there any one particular show that still you get the heebie-jeebies when you think about it?
Yeah, I did one recently. I did one during the pandemic.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I did one during the pandemic. It was for guys who worked and owned. It was in Staten Island? It was in Staten Island, I think. I can't remember. No, it was in New Jersey. But the guys had no, I'm sorry, it was in Staten Island. One of those, I think Staten Island.
It's all the same shit.
But it was Italians, but it was guys who owned cement companies, sanitation companies, their companies. It was a group of them, a group of guys who owned these companies, Italians, and mob related businesses. I don't know if they were in the mob. I don't know, but they're very mob related businesses. So the kid who brought me out, his family owned one of the businesses. So he brought me out and he gave me a ride and we're talking, and I go, I bombed in front of Italians the worst that I have ever bombed before. Like, there's a certain type of Italian that I bomb in front of that's worse than I've ever bombed anywhere in front of any other kind of crowd. And it's these kind of like wise guy type Italians that I really bomb in front of, because they just don't give anything, and they kind of don't understand they understand what's happening. It's just that they don't want to give anything. as far as laughter goes or enjoy themselves or anything like that. So
how much time did you have to do?
I'm telling him this on the way there. And then I get there and I see that there's no women. It's all just these guys and their sons in this ballroom. And I'm like, oh, this looks like it's going to be a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
This is like
sounds
exactly
like it.
what I described on the way here. So I had to do 45. So the kid gets up and does his time, and they're like, know him, but they're just like kind of jawing back and forth with him. They're not really giving him much, but he holds his own. But then again, he knows these people, I would imagine. He works for his father's company. And he's a good kid, nice kid, very nice. And he brings up the middle, who's a friend of mine from Long Island, John Ziegler. And he's funny. He's a funny guy, but they're not giving him. He's like arguing with them, but like they're heckling him, and he's trying to turn it into funny. But it's like that's where they stop. They're not giving him anything off of that. And then I go up, and I'm just getting like nothing from them. And then like it's not new material. It's like jokes that I've done on TV and stuff.
Yeah.
And they're doing it nothing. And there's one guy who's heckling and laughing at himself, heckling me.
Oh.
But and it's just awkward silence with every joke where there's the thing that screws you up the most is there's a rhythm to your set.
Yes.
Where it's like joke and then there's a laugh and then there's a joke and there's a laugh. But if there's no laugh, it throws the rhythm off. And it's like you're used to that kind of rhythm in your head. So that's happening and it's happening and it's happening and it keeps going and going. And finally, one time at some point during the set, after one thing bombed, I go, yep, just trying to do my time here. And I keep going and going, nothing, maybe some heckling, nothing. Finally, a guy gets out of his seat and he starts walking towards the stage. And I go, because I was joking about them being in the mob, but I don't know. They might have actually been connected to them. Like up here in those areas.
It sounds like it's
they could have been very well connected. Like, I don't know. And that's not why they weren't laughing. They were just not laughing at anything. But I'm sure that probably didn't make things better if they were actually a part of organized crime. They don't find it to be amusing. So he's walking towards the stage and he gets to the stage and he goes, that's it. That's it. It's over. And I go, all right, thank you. Good night. And then I got off because I was like, I don't want to be here anyway. I don't want to be doing this. Like, this is a nightmare.
Did you do the full 45 or did he cut you off?
No, he cut me off like at 30, but I still had suffered. I had suffered for 30 before he approached stage and goes, that's enough. That's good. That's it. And I was like, good night. And then I got off and, they were very, the people who hired me were very nice. The kid who hosted was very cool, paid me, got me a ride back, everything. So I was, they were good, the people. But it's just like, I realized later that these types of guys, why I do so badly and why everybody does badly with these types of guys is because they think of laughter as vulnerability. They think laughter as a sign of weakness. I really think that's what it is. It's like, how is it possible that a whole room, it's like, oh, they view laughing at another man is like giving power somehow.
Like crying or something. Like I told you, no laughing, no laughing.
Yeah, it's something like that where it's like too much vulnerability and they don't want to give anybody that power. And I don't know. So that was like, I remember thinking after that, I'm like, this is the worst I've bombed in a long time.
Wow.
Awkwardly bombed. And I'm like 20 years in and I've seen a lot of stuff and whatever, but it's like awkwardly bombing and just continuing to awkwardly bomb for 30 minutes. And the ending was just perfect, where a guy just walks towards, I'm not sure what he's coming up for. He just walks towards the stage and goes, that's good. That's it. That's it.
I'd immediately be thinking this is like my Mark David Chapman, John Lennon moment. Like I'm going to get shot point blank here.
I was like, this might get, it took me back at first that he was approaching the stage, but then he started just going like this. I was like, now I'm happy to get out of here. That was,
okay. So
nightmare. What? I mean, it was just, bad. I mean, really bad.
I had two really bad shows during the pandemic. Both were the second show on a Saturday, both times. Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and Appleton, Wisconsin. Great clubs, just bad. These shows in particular were rough. So both of them, like, I don't know, 10 or 12 people in the crowd. I'm headlining. Nobody's having fun, myself included. I bailed. I did like 35. What are your thoughts on bailing if it's a small crowd, nobody's having fun, and they're not going to have fun? You still think you got to commit to your time, or you think there's some freedom in bailing when they want to leave? I don't want to be up here. Why drag this out for 12, 15 more minutes?
Right. I understand it, but what I try to do, first of all, if I'm contracted to do the time, I focus on doing the time.
Mm-hmm.
I focus on it. And because it's like, it's not about whether they're having fun or you're having fun. Now it's about the contracted time. But if during the contracted time, the owner or somebody in power goes, you don't have to do it, like, we can end this, like, whatever, somehow gets you that message, I'm happy to get off.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to honor the contracted time.
Yeah, no, I get that. I ran over to the both room managers, and I was like, I'm sorry. And they were like, no, dude, don't even worry about it, because, 12 people, it blows my mind that they, like, weren't even trying to have fun.
Right.
Like, I don't even know if I got a couple laughs in the 35 minutes I was up there. I just said the words, and
things where it's like, what are you here for?
Exactly. What the fuck
what
are
you
you
here for? Number one. And number two, even as a crowd, sometimes, like, you have to be responsible for your own fun. Now, I'm an entertainer, and I'm going to work very hard to bring you in and to entertain and to make you laugh. But at some point, you have to be responsible for your own fun and your own happiness.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't do that for you. So you have to meet me halfway. You have to bring something to the table, kind of a situation.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But there's like these in between where it's like, I'll go up in the I'll find it tough. I'll find it difficult. And then it's a question of something switches in my mind from experience now, where it's like, I used to get mad at them. I used to grit my teeth and just do my jokes, but I don't do that anymore. What I try to do is I try to stay within myself, stay in the pocket, and then just keep coming and keep working them in, keep working them in. And there's all kinds of different situations in that, you know what I mean? Because it's like, you can, as a comic, you know, we're tempted to abandon our material and just go into the crowd and do crowd work. And sometimes it's that's what, you know, if you
what
have
they want,
crowd who wants to hijack the show. I've had that. I've had a crowd and then somebody try to make the show about them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
they want you to address them and they want the show to be about them. But instead of that, you just like keep them at a distance, and then you just keep your material, keep doing you and working them into your thing instead of abandoning what you're doing and making it about this one person or these different groups of drunk people. You know what I mean? Because that's what they're trying to hijack. I didn't realize it at the time when I was younger in comedy, but now I've been on the road and I understand it. It's like they're trying to hijack the show, which is a nefarious thing to do. So to prevent that, you recognize that. And the easy thing is to go into the crowd in those situations. But instead of that, you stay in the pocket and keep working them in. And the worst situation is when you have some drunk people and then you have a crowd that's kind of like not really giving it to you. They're there, they're quiet, but they're not on your side. So it's like you're trying to win them over, and then you have this drunk moron trying to hijack it. That's a tough situation to be in, because the instinct there, the easy way out is to go to the drunk moron and just do a penalty kill, just kill your time. But the right thing to do is to stay in the pocket, neutralize the drunk person, and then just keep trying to work the other people into what you're doing instead of abandoning what you're doing and just giving it to them.
Do you like doing crowd work?
Yeah, I like it. But I want to do it on my own terms.
Yeah, exactly. I hate it.
Doing it.
I was never a fan, and I'm not afraid that it won't go well because I trust myself to be funny off the cuff and handle a situation. I just don't like it.
Right.
Like, I talk, you don't, we all go home. It's as simple as that.
Right. No, I understand that. There's something to be said for that. But in the moment,
if something fun happens in the moment, then that's cool, because that's like a moment that you all share that will never happen again. You all saw something or witnessed something or had a moment together. That's cool. But I hate if somebody's being drunk and chatty, I'm like, what are you drinking? How much you've been drinking? What time you start drinking? And then like taking it away from the show. You know what I mean?
Right. That's right. They do hijack the show that way. The worst thing I got to say is, and I've had this happen a few times to me, is there's people sitting in the front, and you're doing your set, I'm doing my set, and they're saying stuff under their breath that I can hear in between the jokes. They're just saying their own stuff. Yeah, I know that. Yeah. Oh, I do that. And it's like they're subtly trying to make the show about them, and they're trying to do it in a way that's they're not calling attention to themselves. And it's an awkward moment there, because you have to. I've done this on shows, and it's awkward, but you have to go, hey, you have to stop. You have to stop what you're doing. And they go, what am I doing? What am I doing? It's like, you know what you're doing. You're saying stuff to me, and I can't. This is not all.
I can't concentrate.
Like, I have my act. Like, I know where I'm going and stuff, and I'm professional. But like, you're willfully trying to throw me off. Mm-hmm. You're willfully trying to get me to fit and make it about yourself. Like, stop doing that. Stop it. You know what I mean? Like, you have to have a real like disciplinary moment there. That it's and then. Like I said, like if the crowd's on your side, it's much easier to do that.
Oh, but God, yeah.
First of all, it's very tough because the crowd's not hearing what they're doing. The crowd just goes, oh, what's wrong with this guy?
Then if you attack them, the back of the room doesn't know, so you look like an asshole coming at somebody.
Right. Yep. Right. And again, it's much better if the crowd's already on your side and you're already killing with them, then they're on your side. But if they're like still going, I don't know, is this guy funny? Was this a good decision to come here? If they're still trying to figure it out, and then you're dealing with this person who's saying stuff in between your jokes, and then you have to discipline them, it puts everybody else on edge. They're going, wow, this wasn't the fun time I expected.
Yeah, then there's a weird tense in the room. Oh, yup.
It's very tough that way, you know?
But do you think crowds are like drunker now after the pandemic? You think people are going out to party? Because I've seen a handful. I did a 4:00 show at the Helium in Indianapolis back in March, and the 4:00 show were hammered. I mean, they were wasted like it was a late show. Wow.
That might have been just a
fluke.
Yeah, fluke. Because what I find is that most of them are they're much more appreciative.
Yeah.
Now, I would say that just coming back, I feel them to be appreciative.
I feel that way too, and a lot of crowds have been very awesome. There's been very few duds in the bunch, because I think people are excited to be back at it all the way around.
Right.
Except for those two shows.
I just don't want to make it sound like these are the worst case scenarios, you know, the drunk person.
Oh, God, yeah.
But most shows, like, it's like when the other side of it is when you're vibing with the crowd and they're getting the joke exactly how you wrote it and how you intended it. And you can feel their energy coming. I've had recently experiences where it's like, and maybe it's because of the year layoff, but it's like you're just hitting on all cylinders and vibe, and they're feeling it and responding the exact way you had imagined it in your head when you wrote it. And it's just like, it's like a drug.
Dude, there's no better feeling in the entire world. There's no better feeling in the entire world than when, like you just said, when you feel the energy, they're vibing and reacting perfectly to the exact way you want it.
Right. But there's something to be said for being in a bad situation or a situation that's not ideal, where they're not getting you and you're not connecting to them. And instead of like doing your jokes just like a robot or lashing out at them or just dedicating yourself to crowd work, there's something to be said for staying in the pocket, deciding to have fun yourself.
Uh-huh.
Like, I'm going to have fun. Like, I know this is funny. I'm going to have fun with it. So by me having fun and trying to work them in, they're going to have fun. Just by watching me have fun with it.
Sometimes we forget to have fun, though, because we're at work.
Yes.
It is very easy to put yourself on autopilot and just go through the motions. But when you're having fun and you're actually taking it in the moment yourself, it's the best thing in the entire world. But it's so easy to forget to have fun.
That's true. And I would say that, like you actually said it. Going on autopilot is a tempting thing to do, but it's the wrong thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's the wrong thing to do if you want to get better. It's tempting because you're like, fuck these people.
Yep.
I'll just go on autopilot. Fucking, I'll do my time. I'll do my contracted time. Fuck these people. That's the instinct. But it's the wrong thing to do if you're trying to grow.
That's true. That's very true. If you're trying to grow and really develop all your skills as a comic.
Right.
How's the rest of your calendar looking this year?
I never had stuff booked a year out. Like it always comes though. Mm-hmm. So it's filling up. It always comes. And
you're local soon. You said Royersford.
Yeah, I'm doing the show. I don't know when this comes out, but
this will be out next Wednesday. 5 days.
Okay, it'll be already done then.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah,
very cool. Well,
the show is. I mean, when this comes out, it's with Ari Shaffir, Mark Normand, Dina Hashem, and Gary Veter.
Oh, no, that's an awesome lineup. Like, I know all of them.
To hang out.
That's an awesome lineup.
And stuff. So I think one of them sold out, and the other one will probably be sold out.
Oh, very cool. That's an awesome lineup. Yeah. Well, dude, thank you for being here, man. I hope we cross paths soon. It's been when was Cleveland? 2 years ago? 3 years ago? Probably.
It was before the pandemic.
Yeah, before the pandemic. So
2 years. So, but that was a great time.
That was, man. So, dude, thank you for doing this, man. I love just shooting the shit and getting people's backstory, and that was awesome, man. Thank you very much.